Today's episode of Poets at War is sponsored by the following.
Hello, I'm Sarah Levesque, Editor-in-Chief of Logo Sophia magazine. I would like to invite you to explore our Pilgrim's Journal of Life, Love, and Literature, both in visual format and in podcast format. Our goal is to help bridge the gaps between different Christian denominations and traditions. Please visit our website at logosophiamag.com to read or listen to stories, articles, poetry, and more, all for free. We look forward to journeying with you.
Today on Poets at War, we speak once again with the editor-in-chief of Logo Sophia magazine, Sarah Levesque, about childish versus childlike. Join us in the trenches. This is Poets at War!
If you can see that, kind of, sort of, is a...
Not really, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's a green... technically, it's a longhorn, but it's supposed to be an aurochs from the Song of Albion trilogy, Stephen Lawhead. So, nice. Yep. Don't know if you've read that one, but I've mentioned it many times. So
you've mentioned it. I've put it on my wish list.
Cool.
But
cool.
It hasn't made it to my house.
And I'm not talking about this without...
finances.
Oh, I know. Right? Like, big time right now.
You can't just put $30 down on a book that I'm not going to read anytime soon because I have no time.
Because that's, at least 3/4 of a gallon of gas. So.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm your instrumental wall with an eye of jealousy.
Oh, yeah. My instruments and stuff. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I still have random other instruments that I want to play with, but still can't get those either. So, but
instruments are expensive.
Yeah, they're even more expensive. It's crazy. But I'm not talking about this without any sort of not purpose, because me, I'm running the show now. I always just pick a random spot to jump in. You've been on here before, the deal. Like, all these thingamajobbers in my office.
I didn't know you were recording video.
Right? I'm sorry. But
I knew you were recording audio, obviously, but I didn't know you were recording video. And it's like, I realized it after you posted, and I was like, I could have done so much better.
Oh, well, right. But yeah, we've got, it's so funny to me. Like, I specifically was looking at all of this stuff recently and thinking to myself, this is the perfect setup for segueing into our topic that you really wanted to talk about, childish versus childlike. I mean, I literally have a doll of Dwight over there on the wall. I think I can turn it to where you can see it. He's hanging out in a mug right there.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see him.
Mm-hmm. He's hanging out in Michael's world's best boss mug.
I don't know what you would think about that.
I know, right? It's kind of an odd thing, but I have toys, but they're like, I didn't buy any of them. People just buy me toys because they assume, I'm that kind of person, and I'm really actually not. I'm kind of more minimalist in that way. But when people give them to me, I can't get rid of them either. You know what I mean? And so it's one of these, yeah.
Thanks to a conversation I had with students, they wanted a class pet.
Mm-hmm.
And I said in different terms, it wasn't in such kind terms, but I basically said, you can have a pet rock. You now have 3 pet rocks and a chunk of asphalt. Hanging out on top of the shelf because I don't know what to do with 3 pet rocks and a chunk of asphalt that were given to me by my high school students.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's funny. But yeah, so like, why don't you introduce the idea of our topic? You said you wanted to talk on what?
Childish versus childlike.
Mhm.
Because Christ calls us to be childlike. And in our society today, we see so many people who are childish.
Mhm.
And it's not the same at all.
Right. Not at all. Not at all. The way that I look at this, and I'd love to see you cut into this if you disagree, or, really like talk with me about this. But the way I've always kind of set it apart is pretty simple. One is childish is acting and like, both of them involve liking things that a child likes, but for completely different reasons. A person who is childish will like childlike or like things that a child likes because they do not have the maturity to like things that are not something that a child likes. Whereas a person who is childlike tends to like the things that a child likes because they have tasted the things of an adult and found them less than satisfying.
Interesting. I can't say I thought about it like that. Interesting thought. My kind of definition, my line between the two is, of course, they both, as you said, enjoy what children enjoy. But for my differentiation, childish is lacking a sense of responsibility.
That's
whereas
part of it. Yeah.
Childlike is still meeting their responsibilities, but being able to relax and do things that are just fun.
Right. Yeah. And that's something that I'm actually not very good at, is relaxing and doing stuff just for fun. I'm always trying to turn it into a next business endeavor or this, that, or the other. And people will tell me, just chill out and enjoy the moment.
You've got to sit down on the floor sometimes. You got to sit down on the floor sometimes.
My knees are really bad, Sarah. I'm just saying.
You never let Hazel play on the floor with you?
No, I do. I'm playing. No, it does happen, but it's one of those things that I am not particularly good at. And it's not that I'm not good at it. I'm not good at dancing. It's not that. I'm saying, like, I know it's not a good thing. And it's something that I'm constantly trying to work on in and of myself, trying to be able to have the spontaneity to do things without a utilitarian purpose on the other end.
Right, which makes a whole lot of sense, because not only are you a very busy person like myself, we have both grown up, at least tangentially, to our society, which has this weird hypocritical idea that everything you do must produce something, unless, like, I don't even understand how this works, because it's somehow both you have to do everything and be productive, and you can do nothing and it's 100% okay.
Are you familiar with the heresy of Gnosticism?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of this comes back to various Gnostic and neo-Gnostic ideas. I've done a deep dive into this particular field of study because I'd like to know why the world is the way it is and how we got here, so we can look at how to get out. One of the biggest things that I have found is Gnosticism. There's a form of Gnostic Christianity today, especially in Protestant circles, although it falls into Eastern Orthodoxy and Roman Catholicism. It's this idea that we have a special knowledge of Christ that saves us, right? There's something in our brains that clicks a switch logically, and that is what saves us in some kind of crazy way. Now, we have a little bit of a different, like, categories of justification and sanctification are more of a Protestant thing, and we've talked about that kind of thing before. But what really comes back down to is, if God wants you saved, you're saved. because he's sovereign. And you're not going to be able to kick against that over time. C.S. Lewis wasn't able to kick against that over time. The sanctification of God took hold of him and made him who he was supposed to be. Right? This is something that God works through time and space. He changes our hearts, right, to want him more.
Yes.
Mhm.
I just want to draw the line between that idea and predestination.
I don't, because I'm Calvinist, but that's a whole other thing. but yeah.
Well, as a Catholic, I was listening to your podcast with I think it was Phil Lawler that what you were basically talking about predestination, but I don't think you used the word. And I'm just kind of sitting in my car driving along like just kind of getting annoyed because like I get it. You're both Protestant, you're both Calvinist, whatever. And I get that there's a difference here, but I'm just kind of sitting there in my car, not quite seething, but getting there.
Yeah. No, I totally get. I believe me, I understand both the Protestant and the Catholic Arminian perspective tends to be a little bit more nuanced, of course. But I totally get and understand more Arminian type perspectives. I really do. And I understand why people have a problem with it. But when I start talking about Calvinism and predestination, particularly the kind that Paul uses the word predestination, that we get the word predestination from in the original texts, what is being referred to is not in any way taking away from the agency of a human being. It is placing it within time and space, which were created by God in the first place. So it's saying that we have a completely different state of agency than could ever be conceived of, because God lives in a completely different existence than we do. Right.
Okay.
And so that's a whole other, and I don't mean to derail completely here, but this is important stuff. And you and I haven't had this particular conversation before, I don't think, but I tend to try to kind of blow past this and try to get to the middle ground, but I just want to be clear to you that human agency, this is the way I look at it. Anytime anyone does a Trinity, what do you call it? Metaphor, it borders or even falls into heresy, right? Like it's a thing. The Trinity is,
you can't,
yeah, exactly. The closest I have ever come, and I always preface it with this because I don't want people to fall into heresy on any side, is Christ, the Father as the author, right? We know that by extension through Christ in Hebrews, he's the author and finisher of our faith. We have this author, this creator God who created the whole thing. Then we have the Son, we have Christ. He is the protagonist of this entire story. He is the one by whom, through whom, to whom is everything. He is the one the story is actually about. Okay. And then we have the Holy Spirit, who is the narrator or the narrator's voice in the story. The narrator actually interacts with the individual characters and gives them pieces of their life in a meta fashion. He actually weaves in and out through the world in a way that is special and unique, but is not the author, like the blood, in the terms of an author situation, the blood and bones person that's actually putting ink to page, right? And he's not the protagonist, but the author wrote himself into that protagonist role as a human being in the pages of the paper. In other words, he took the ink and the paper and made himself, right? And so the ink and the paper representing, of course, corporeal existence, et cetera, et cetera. And I
use a similar example for my students.
Yeah. And so when you actually when you take predestination into account, there are characters that God has made, and you know this as well as anybody being a writer, that you cannot make this character do something. You could, but that breaks the character, right? God is
Yeah.
not going to make this weird dwarven warrior bard poet person go and sit in a business meeting in a suit for 13 hours at a time. He's just not going to let that happen, because it breaks the character that he made, and he is pleased by this character. You see what I'm saying? And so that's when I talk about predestination, I'm talking about the fact that God, through salvation, is changing a character from a villain to a sub-hero. Right? He is yeah, go ahead.
It's just easy, particularly for people who are less educated,
Gnostic,
shall we say, than you are. That it's easy just to think, okay, predestination, that means I have no choice in anything.
Right. It is.
And because technically that's what the word sounds like.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's come to sound like that because we have this Gnostic idea from the beginning of what those things mean, what it means for God to be sovereign. We don't have a place in our mind for the fact that he is pleased in his own work the same way that he has caused an author to be pleased in their own work. You know, we don't have categories for, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm recording right now. It's okay. You're fine. You can do whatever you need to do. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, we don't have categories for this anymore because we've launched into this idea that we have this personal salvation through Christ, and that's it. That's all. That's the only covenant here that matters in any kind of way. Is this idea of myself acquiescing to the knowledge, some kind of saving secret knowledge of who Jesus is. You see what I'm saying? And now I'm in on the secret, and I'll punch my ticket, baby. Like, that's what our culture has taken it to, instead of, no, you were a character who was broken by a plot device that entered into the world, and now you are being restored by the protagonist. Take your time.
Sorry, usually I'm the last one here, but apparently not today.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No big deal. No big deal. But yeah, you're following what I'm saying.
Mostly. Every so often I get.
It's okay.
You know.
Well, let me sum up.
Two people came in in one.
Yeah.
Two people came in the 2 minutes, and I was completely unexpected.
It's all good. It's all good. So the thing to sum up what I'm trying to say, we have taken a word that has existed before these notions of puppeteering have become their connotation. And so I don't have a problem using them in order to have conversations like this, in order to facilitate conversations like this. It is something that is provocative. It gets in people's minds and whatever else. But this was not the intentions Paul was using when he spoke of predestination, right? And no Arminian that I have ever talked to, no matter how much they say Calvinism's heresy, Calvinism, he killed servitude, that kind of a thing. Like, no matter how much they go into all that, I have never met one that when I explained it to you like this, even with more layman's terms, that they didn't go, well, yeah, of course. Yeah, I've never had one that actually was a full Pelagian, who actually believed, who actually, or an open theist. I've had open theists go back on what they believed because I explained it this way. They were like, well, no, that makes more sense. So yeah, I don't mean to sizzle your pancakes here, right? Like, I'm not here trying to rile people up with predestination. I'm trying to have conversations like this, and that's really valuable for this podcast. Thanks for bringing that up. But yeah. You want to get us back on topic? Sizzling pancakes lady.
You and you Southern people and your weird phrases.
I was trying to come up with something more normal, but this is what happens. This is why we can't have nice things.
These are not things we say in the North. We don't think of things like this. But it is fun to use language in unexpected ways. And in a sense, you could say it's childish because what do children do with language? They explore. They use it incorrectly.
Yep.
They tell the same stupid joke over and over and over again.
Hazel is amazing because she tries to use a lot of the words that I use for work, like, download and the internet and, all these sorts of things. And she is starting to get concepts of how certain things work, like she knows what a hard drive is. And she has that concept. But before she thought of what a hard drive is as being another version of the internet. Like essentially she said, is the hard drive working today? Is the internet working today? And she thinks of it as like a service. I'm like, the hard drive's always going to work until it doesn't, because it's right here in the room with us as opposed to the internet, and I had to explain that to her for streaming purposes, for watching movies and things. And so, but yeah, like I'm right there with you. Like using language in that way is childish versus childlike. I think what I just did was childlike because I had a concept. I had an abstract concept that I threw out at you, and I needed placeholders. And I'm like, what sounds fun? Sizzling pancake.
I mean, you didn't neglect your responsibilities by doing it. So I think it's totally fine.
Yeah.
I am really big on using random utterances myself to do random things, because despite the fact that I'm a verbal processor, my words don't always come out the way I want them to.
Right.
And part of it might have to do with my dad. Recently, my dad and I were working on a project over school break. And I realized, I don't think this is the first time I realized it, but I tend to forget it when I don't hang out with him much. He works second shift. I work first shift. We don't get to see each other much.
Right.
But I'd be handing him tools, or he would need a tool handing and go, give me the red one.
Mm-hmm.
The red what? Okay, give me the yellow one. Okay, this is the only yellow thing. All right, give me the black one. There's two black ones.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't use nouns.
Right. It's
he says
adjectives.
That one, or the thing, or the doohickey. And it's like, wait, give me a noun.
Right.
So I go by it somewhat naturally, but I've also been known just to insert random noises when I can't think of the proper word. I just come up with some onomatopoeic kind of noise.
Yeah,
and
it's placeholder,
generally speaking, it works because conversation isn't about words. Conversation is about ideas and communicating them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun. So I'll definitely, especially when texting with certain friends, because texting you've got a little more time to work out some words, and I'll use some different verbiage sometimes to kind of play with things and harken back to older English and Shakespeare and stuff, and just like throw out my vocabulary there.
Right.
It's fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun, and it's part of beautifying the world. I find, using real punctuation in your texts, just random things like that, it makes the world a better place, quite frankly. That's why I've shown you screenshots before, and you guys have always commented in the Brood on my my choice of font on my phone, the Blackmore font.
Right.
And it's just little things like that just make things a little bit sweeter, in my opinion. It's less.
Yeah. That's the thing. There's something about being childlike that is chock full of the good and the true and the beautiful, because children are generally speaking, unless something horrible has happened to them, children are themselves full of the good and the true and the beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So
At least they are drawn more clearly and less inebriatedly to the good, the true, and the beautiful. I think that
simplicity.
Yeah, well, I mean, even in Peter Pan, which is one of the big fictional texts that people refer to for this phenomenon, the boys are also at the same time completely savage and will stab you in the back because you took their pudding pop. You know what I'm saying? And so there's this real brokenness there that we can point back to and go, that's original sin. That's the thing that everyone has to overcome.
It's also the point that they have experienced this trauma of they are being raised by themselves. They are raising themselves.
Right.
If you can count it being raised, they're not actually growing.
Right.
So that's iffy in and of itself because there's no room for growth there. But they do have that trauma, which does complicate things that they do not have a mother and a father who are supporting them.
Right. And that's one of the reasons it's so important for children to be raised by parents, is because they're to be raised in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, as us Presbyterians would say, and others too. Like, it's this concept of being raised up in the covenant of God. You are being raised as a Christian, as a cultural Christian. Now, whether or not God regenerates you is his business, right? That's a whole other thing. But we raise them in the hope of their salvation, and of the salvation that God promised to generations of faithful Christians.
Right.
Are you calling God a liar? Like, let's be real here, right?
Yeah. It's just so important that happens. Because otherwise you do get those Peter Pan characters that their lives just, they're not what they should be. Because it's so much harder for them to see the good, the true, and the beautiful. But even so, they can still catch glimpses of it.
Yep. That's
because children, as complex as they are, they have a simplicity to them, generally speaking. Small children.
Yes. There's no bull crap. There just isn't, I
feel like that helps them grasp at the good, the true, and the beautiful, because these are also very complex, but concepts that are so simple at the same time.
Why do all little boys like dragons and cars and, all these sorts of things? Cool. It's because they are, it's not just because they are aesthetically cool. It is because they realize that is an application of power that is very real and very good. It can be used for great good. It can be used for great good for themselves and for others. And it can be, they can see that working and making the world a better place. Like, so that's why they're into like the service vehicles in particular, not just because they can recognize, okay, that's a service vehicle. Otherwise it would just be, that's my favorite color car, which they do as well, but less so, right? Like they go firefighter. Those are heroes. Those are guys going and fighting things that I can't even imagine fighting a fire, right? I have a little boy 5 years old, and I'm just like, that is someone who is closer to Christ than me as a hero.
Even though usually they're not thinking that far.
No, but they are they
have that impression. Yes,
they have that impression, and they're slowly beginning to follow that trail, and they might just get a little ways out.
Totally helps. It totally helps that the emergency vehicles make a lot more noise.
Of course. But I was talking garbage trucks too. And I mean, yeah, they make noise, but it's not the same kind of like recognizable sound, right? Like with a garbage vehicle, they love the fact that they take away the garbage. They make things clean, right? Yeah. And the fact is, all of these little, like you said, they don't think about it too deeply, but their inclinations are to go and realize this has great effect elsewhere. Like they start down that path, they toddle down that path, and they start looking up and seeing the metaphorical stained glass windows that are in this world because of the garbage man. You know what I'm saying? The world is a cleaner place because of the garbage man.
It is. Well, hopefully.
If done right.
Yeah. But it's funny, the reason why I thought about this at all was I had totally been binging on Poets at War. And I was at the grocery store. So I did the grocery shopping. Okay, got my responsibilities done. Check. Now, the parking lot of our grocery store has a very slight grade to it.
Yeah.
And being a small person, it is totally feasible for me to step onto the bottom of the grocery cart and just like skateboard down on the grocery cart.
I've done this many times. Fun. As a 300-pound man, I have done this many times.
Because it's fun, and why not? It's weird that this culture that we live in, it thinks that having fun is bad.
Yeah.
But also, you need to be having fun at all times.
Yes, exactly.
In one of those crazy,
but also not fun that has, but also not fun that has expense at other people's, or not fun at other people's expense. But also, if they consent, it's fine.
Right. There's so much contradiction. So much contradiction. So this is what got me down this wormhole. I just rode down the little grade to my car on the grocery cart. Like, this is fun. Why don't people do this? I never see people doing this because people are afraid of being embarrassed.
Yeah. And it's not even just being embarrassed. They're afraid of what other people will think. They think that somehow those thoughts entering someone else's head and having some kind of view of them is somehow going to destroy, I don't know what, just.
I have no idea. I mean, the closest guess I have is like destroying your reputation.
My reputation's been destroyed by way worse than going down. But right? But it's been destroyed in one sense and it's been solidified in another. Like, exactly. I know that there's the only people in a corporate setting that are going to want me are the ones who don't like corporate settings.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? And people who think that the corporate setting is weird and messed up. There are even people who, the current corporate setting is starting to move more toward the Google model, right? Toward the idea of there's a daycare in the other room. There's also just, there's slides and fun stuff and things to help you relax during your day. And they're going more toward the fun aspect of things to try and, yes, good in one sense, but in the other, it's fake. And that's the thing, and it's insincere. That's the other part. Like, you can totally create all that, but if you're doing it for the express utilitarian purpose of making sure that, those TPS reports come in, instead of you're actually caring about your people.
That is a problem. You do need to care about your people.
Right. And so my issue is, how can you care about a person if you can't even define one when it's being killed in the womb?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, how can you really truly care about another human individual if you cannot even say that that is a human individual?
Mm-hmm. We've been discussing this in my classes recently.
Mm-hmm.
That's as much as I'm going to say on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. our society is just absolutely insane.
Oh, they are. They are. And like I said, a lot of it comes back to not just in the church, although that's where it really hits home. But we have this idea that there's some secret knowledge that's going to make us happy. You know, even the seculars people have this. Everyone's searching. Everyone's looking for that special thing that's a special answer that's going to click. That's what all of our manipulation marketing is based off of. That's what, you know, everyone who is telling a story on a grand corporate level where they're actually making money, you know, hand over fist, they're doing it based on false promises of knowledge. You know, which is Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire really going to be in the new Spider-Man movie? Yes, he is, Virginia. There is a Spider-Man, right? Like
I saw it the other day.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I saw that just the other day, and I wasn't sure when you asked the question if you if it was a question you actually wanted to know the answer to. Wait a minute.
No, but my point is, how did they sell that movie? It wasn't what is the moral quandary that Peter Parker in the MCU is going, you know, the Tom Holland one is going through, and how is he going to get through it, like most, you know, Spider-Man before have been. How did they do it? They sold it through, oh my goodness, you see Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina in the trailer. Could that possibly mean that Toby and or Andrew are back? Right?
Yeah.
That's how they sold the movie. They sold it based on secret knowledge, right? Everyone's selling things in this world. Yeah, they're selling it based on secret knowledge. It's this idea that there's something in this world just around the corner, and I know where it is, and I can give you that information. You know, guy trench coat in the alley here, have a watch, right? Like it's this slimy, shady Gnosticism that people are peddling on every level.
It is. Now that you say that, you're absolutely right. I hadn't thought about it before, but it's, your life will be better if you have this.
Your life will be better if you're transsexual. Your life will be better if you are more self-actualized in whatever it is you are, and what you are because you like anime is a furry. You know what I'm saying? Like it. It's so contrary to the truth.
Because the truth is right in front of everybody.
But they don't want truth; they want happiness.
Happiness is when you slow down and you enjoy what you have.
Right.
Happiness is playing tag with 3 little kids.
Right. And see,
on a playground.
They know this, and
but you don't really fit in very well.
And they know this, and they were unfulfilled ultimately by it. And they have rejected Christ because the church burned them. Right.
Well,
and
there's
so
that, which can be part of it, but there's also the fact that society has also been feeding them the idea that we need to be entertained.
Yeah.
If we are not being entertained.
And I, pink-haired feminist, need to be completely unique in my own individual.
Because
she said in an army of pink-haired feminists.
Right? But it's that idea that we need to be entertained rather than entertaining ourselves, which comes back to an idea. It's not quite what I'm going for, but I'm going to use it anyway. That we're not allowed to be bored.
Yeah.
But from boredom comes so much.
Yeah.
From boredom, you've talked to this before.
Yeah.
But from boredom, you get your ideas, you get your art, whatever that may be, whether it's drawing sorts of art or writing sorts of art or creating it, whatever it is. You don't typically come up with that unless you have space to think.
Well, and most people,
comes back to another point that in order to have that space to think, we need our leisure time. But as adults, we tend to have very little leisure time because we are either too busy trying to keep a roof over our heads or trying to juggle all the 4,700 things that God has given us to juggle. That'd be me. Or we are working under that lie that everything needs to be productive, and we don't give ourselves that leisure time. And even children aren't given that leisure time. They're given a screen, or they're given 3 sports.
Which a screen can be productive depending on what they're doing. I just want to point that out.
But it can also, it's more often than not used for less than productive things.
If the child is the one deciding, I would agree. Because children are always going to choose candy over filet mignon. So, but they also aren't, and this isn't true across the board. It's in generalization, and I'm aware of dangerous generalizations. But I would say in our culture today, it's become so common that parents are under the impression that their child has to be in 3 different activities in order to get ahead or to stay. I don't even know what the logic is. Off the streets, Sarah. They got to stay off the streets.
Keep him off the streets. Like keep him so that he's even with Johnny down the street. Like as if there's some sort of competition. Like my kid can do more things than your kid.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to my homeschooled self.
That's a whole other thing that I got going on right now.
How are you supposed to function as a child if your entire day is going to school, being shuttled from activity to activity, whether it's yours or your brother's or your sister's, and then trying to squeeze in homework somewhere, and then going to bed and somehow squeezing dinner in somehow, probably fast food or not a family dinner?
So I have both ends of this problem at parties in particular. Let's say you just have a random birthday party. Someone brought some games, board games or whatever. And, you got your friends there. There's food. There might even be a little bit of music. Some people may have the idea that they want to dance later, but generally the whole crowd kind of doesn't really feel that, whatever. And they may just do their little homeschool swing dance and whatever else. I come into one of those situations and I am completely, even as an extrovert, and especially as an extrovert, completely shut down because everyone at that party thinks that they need to be doing one of these activities that has been laid out before them. Everyone has
think
this.
If I've ever been to one of those parties, but I don't think I have because my friends are so awesome.
Oh boy. But okay, so there's people who will go and they'll say they'll basically give you an itinerary for your entire night as a guest. Right.
Oh boy.
There's the people who will do that. And that's a problem in and of itself. But then there's also the people who will go and they'll just kind of throw some stuff out there and you have no clue what you're going to do. And those tend to go better, but it's just because of the apathy of the people. It's just kind of like things happen, but we're together. Yay. But
it's an introvert party.
Being a DJ, growing up in the DJ business, my father and I knew, we were hired to make to create surprises that would delight the guests and let them spontaneously themselves discover a good time. And cool. This is something that, knowing the inner workings of how this happens, when I go to a party where people just set out some games, you can talk, you can dance if you really want to, there's food, let's just hang out, man. At one side of me wants to be okay, let's conspire and create some kind of fun surprise. and no one else wants to do it with me, so I'm left alone to my own devices. And if I do something, I feel like some kind of like, look at me, it's my party all of a sudden. and I don't want to do that. And then on the other end, it's like, and this is just like the psychology of having fun that I'm getting back toward, right?
Mhm.
People do all these activities because they don't know how to be comfortable in the process of discovering something fun.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. People don't
Yeah.
like the unknown.
Yeah.
And in
well,
order to
they
discover
do like
something
the
fun, you
unknown
often
if
have
it's
to
teased
do the
properly.
unknown.
Yeah, they do like the unknown if it's teased properly. If you're
And if
going with this
they don't have to
Gnostic
be
knowledge
uncomfortable.
thing, right? If you're going with this Gnostic knowledge thing, and it's like the next 5 special things that you can take to eat whatever junk food you want and lose weight.
Yes,
Right.
but I can just put some money on that. I don't have to do anything.
Right, exactly. It asks nothing of you. It asks nothing of you stepping out of your own comfort zone into the conga line, going back to the party, right? It asks
Yep.
it asks nothing of you in that regard. Meanwhile, one of the main things that we would do, especially at the kids' parties, that would just be one of the best things of the event, and people would rant and rave about it, how much they loved it, years and years beyond. We would have, like, the whole time kids would be dancing, and we'd be giving out like a prize after the next song, and they were little inflatable like microphones and guitars, and it was fun. And we were looking for kids who were having fun and trying to follow along as best as they possibly could. Even if they weren't great, like, they'd get a prize because of their enthusiasm, right? And this is all great, having fun, and the parents are watching. They're like, oh, my kids are gonna sleep great tonight, this is gonna be good. I watched it hundreds of times. And then we come to the last big event before the grand finale, which we've told them we're watching for this giant inflatable microphone that we're going to give to the kid who danced the hardest the whole time, right? But the surprise second main event before that, right? We say, oh, guess what? We have another giant microphone. Trick is, your parents or the adult that brought you has to win it for you. So go get them right now. And it is the most beautiful thing, because they've watched for about 30-45 minutes. They know how this game is played. They know how, this goes. And they know that this is akin to the grand prize being given out, and they can win it for their child. Like, all the pressure is on. And some people hate us at that point. But after the next 5 minutes of going from the 1950s up to the 2010s, when was around when our medley ended, like, this 5-minute medley that they have to work for, they have to sweat, right? Like, after they're done with that, their blood is pumping, they're feeling so good, they've been screaming and having fun and trying to win this microphone. And even if they don't win it, they know that they tried their best for their kid, and their kid is proud of them. Right? Not just you proud of your kid is proud of you. What we did, all that we did, is facilitate that journey for the guest. They're the ones who discovered all the joy and amazing emotions along the way. And it was asked of them up front. There's a little bit of hardship here, et cetera, et cetera. But we gave them something amazing.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know why I got off on the tangent, but it fits with our theme,
It absolutely does, because part of actually, I would say a big component of having fun is just relaxing, being yourself, and not caring what the people around you think.
Right. And not being some fake put on version of yourself where you're, dropping down, sandbagging a league to play against the females because you're transgender, right? Like, that's not being yourself, right? That's lying about who you feel like you are inside. We're not talking about that. I know that I am an overweight dad with horrible jokes and okay stories that can, I have this fascination with warrior bards and poetry and whatever else. And it's nerdy as heck. I know it is, but like, this is who I am. This actually is. And it's more so than that. Christ is who I am. He's the one who chose this guy and gave me these desires. And if you have a problem with the desires that he has given me, take it up with the Bible. If the Bible has nothing bad to say about it, you shouldn't either, buddy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, but go ahead.
I didn't have anything specific to say after that. But no, it's definitely interesting how we, as humans, not like you and I, but just in general, as humans, we find it so difficult to just be ourselves and not worry about what other people think about us. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's I would guess that's a cultural thing rather than a general human thing. I mean, I'm sure original sin factors in heavily.
And there's positive peer pressure too. Don't act like it's all negatives,
Right. But the fact that people are pressured by people that aren't even pressuring them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where it gets crazy in my head.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, I get it. I felt it. I've done it. I certainly felt awkward, but I can't tell you how many people who have told me, oh, I don't like dancing. I'm like, well, okay, why don't you like dancing? Because you're crazy.
Yep. That's why I've come to love the Brood so much. I feel
awkward. I'm like, well, yeah, but then you just keep dancing anyway. And then after you do that enough times, you'll stop feeling awkward because either you'll know what you're doing or you won't think and care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why I've loved the Brood so much, in particular recently, because we all have ways that we even rub each other wrong at times. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, the people who are there, we have, and this isn't just me, like Ian's helped with this and you've helped with this, but we have, and TK, we've had this whole culture there of understanding that is actually genuine, and we're not afraid to have discussions like we just did with predestination and whatever else.
Yeah, we're not afraid of what we believe. We're not afraid of what other people believe. And we're not afraid to let our weird humor out.
Exactly. Michael Bush is such a huge blessing in that regard. He really is. Sometimes he can rub people the wrong way with his humor. And I've even had conversations with people
half the time.
Right. You see, even you don't even get it half the time, but like I do, and I can vouch for his character. And he's just an amazing guy. And there's so many different people like that in the Brood, Stephanie Florentino, and if anyone wants to join the Brood, anyone who's an alumni can absolutely join, of this podcast can absolutely join, and anyone who wants to, honestly, you're more than welcome. You just got to talk to me and send me a message on Facebook about it, and I can add you. But like, it has just been a fun group to share gifts and memes and our own work and to encourage each other. I love the fact that Ian comes in and says, I am just so weary of the world today. I love the fact that he comes in and Eeyore's the situation, and we can come in here. We can come in there.
Eeyore, but that's hilarious.
But we can come, but he's not usually. That's the thing. But he has his Eeyore moments, and we can come in there and say, God is not only just God is in control, but God is in control. You stupid little boy, wake up. And he realizes like it's humor. You know what I'm saying? And we could kind of give him a little head slap, and have fun with it and be like, let's roll into battle, into the fray. And
Right.
That's what the Brood is about. That's what Poets at War is about, man. We do way too much hiding of our weird uncles in our whole entire culture as Christians. And I'm
You
all
have to
for
be
just
unique, but you also have to be the same as everybody else.
right. That's what everyone says. You have to be whatever unicorn vomit is hot this week. So, but it's hilarious, man. It's hilarious. And the ways that God has
The
made
Pope looks disapprovingly at you. Culture.
well, it wouldn't be the first time, Sarah. But anyway, my the ways that Ian and I are different are just as beautiful and amazing. Like we're talking about differences and uniqueness, but the ways Ian and I are even the same are just as glorious. You see what I'm saying? The ways that you and I are the same are just as glorious as the ways that we're different. And I think in a culture that is obsessed with simultaneously obsessed with a globalizing homogeny, right?
Mm-hmm.
As they are with unicorn difference and acceptance.
Yeah.
Like they have no Trinity. They have no 3 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
They don't.
Yeah. It's definitely true.
And being in the Brood is such an amazing experience in a Trinitarian way. It really is. We are the many and we are the one. We are the ones who not only saw what J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were doing in their stories, but also went, and that is so metal, guitar solo, right? Like that's us. That's us in this whole real sense. But then also we've got Catholics, we've got Reformed Presbyterians, we've got whatever the heck Ian is, Ian Wilson, like we've got a little bit of everything, right? We've got Ian Maffett over here doing his worship music. We've got somewhere. Do what?
We've got others in there too.
Yeah, Ian Maffett doing his worship music. We got you doing your Logo Sophia stuff. We've got Stephanie with her piano stuff. I mean,
I've got so much going on, man. That's like the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, I know, I know it is, and I hesitate to change it anymore. I've tried to find like purpose and attachment for it to certain projects and whatever else, and it's just going to be its own thing. And when we lose each other because Facebook inevitably either collapses or becomes Big Brother, the fact is, like, we're going to find each other and we're going to hold to each other, I don't have to put us on another platform because of the crazy oligarchs out there in there, and I'm joking. Yes, I'm joking when I say this, Sarah, but in their lizard skins, I just wanted to be clear that I'm joking when I said that, but go ahead. It is Great Reset, but yeah, go ahead.
No, actually, I'm saying reason, but this is a great reason. This is going to sound weird, but that's okay. This is a great reason to send Christmas cards, because then you have people's addresses and you can contact them if the world falls apart.
There you go.
Blindly assuming that you can either the mail will still work or GPSs will still work.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We'll GPS to the most central location and bunker up there together. Oh boy. But yeah.
Be like, okay, well, I don't have your phone number, but I'm gonna mail you a postcard with my phone number and then you can contact me.
We will find a way to make this happen. The fact is, we're gonna be searching at like whatever search engines are left, your DuckDuckGo's, and then being like, oh look, here's another random search engine from China. Let's see if any of the names of the people that I remember are on there, and we're gonna find them and be like, hey, there's Ian Maffett, and we'll be like, yes, found another.
I know that name.
Yep. and God knows what he's doing through all that. You've heard me before with all my crazy post-millennial rants. Like, I'm good, man. I'm the minstrel boy who's going to just strap the harp over my shoulder and sing until they shoot me, you know?
I feel like my situation is so unique because I have the brood that does all this, but I have more than one group that does this.
Right. Yes. And there are other groups that do this. My
game night group there's a number of Catholics, because originally it was a Catholic thing and then I expanded it and now it has all kinds of random people in it. And then but we can still be real.
Yeah.
We can still be unmasked. We can still talk about the good, the true, and the beautiful, the complicated and the simplistic.
Right.
And I could do this with other of my friend groups as well. And I feel like most people, if they have this at all, only have this in one group. But I can look around my entire life and kind of do a 360 and say, okay, I have this in this friend from work. I have this in the brood. I have this in my game night. I have this in this other group over here. I have it in that group. And I have it at home, which so many people don't have.
And this is a real example of what Paul speaks about when he talks about not just church, not just the Sunday worship service, but do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together.
Yeah.
This really is the saints assembling, and I'm using that in the Protestant sense, I know, but you know what I'm saying. This is the saints. Yeah. You can understand my language anyway. But these are the saints assembling in victorious garb to trade war stories. These are the poets at war, and we can work together to create all kinds of amazing things. You know, I told Ian recently, and we can wrap after this if you want. But I told Ian recently, like, I'm never going to stop making stuff for you. Like, even if you have to stop, I'm not going to stop. I don't want you to stop. And in fact, I love it. And I'm not doing some kind of weird monkish thing where I'm like just giving away stuff for free. No, you're absolutely worth everything that I'm giving you. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. That is true biblical love, working in each other's lives, sharing these war stories and drawing the inspiration that we need from them through our daily life. Well, he's not going to let me put him down, so we'll go ahead and wrap like this.
Horrible.
We've been invaded by a baby friend here on Poets at War, and we like being invaded by baby friends. They bring much needed emotional sustenance for us troops. So anyway, did you want to plug your stuff before I do the little outro?
Sure. But before that, I want to note that whenever I'm listening to these, I totally sing along with the outro.
Yes.
And sometimes I will sing along with the intro, even though it doesn't actually have words. It's just instrumental.
Today on Poets at War. You do that part, right?
Well, when the song starts going off in the background, I'm like, oh, I could sing along to this, even though it doesn't have words right now. It has words later. Right.
There you go. But yeah, go ahead with what.
So I'm okay with that. But yeah, I run the Logo Sophia magazine. So we are a bunch of Christians just kind of doing, like, bridging the gaps between different Christian denominations is kind of our goal. And I will totally say that Poets at War is a big kind of a glimpse of what we're trying to do, is build this community of Christians. And the Brood, again, is a glimpse of what we're trying to do, is building this community of Christians that is comfortable with what they believe, with what other people believe, with that almost, like we were saying earlier, that Trinitarian idea of we are unique in our persons, but we are still one.
Yep.
And so we publish 4 issues every year, one for each season. We publish those online. This is exciting. We are currently working on putting the issues for each year together into an actual physical book. Ooh. Which will be on Amazon. I'm not sure if you've caught wind of that project yet.
No, Joshua. But I'm excited. That's awesome.
But we are working on this. Ian and I and Monica is currently kind of re-editing everything. So we're excited for this. And hopefully that'll be launched next month, the first one. We shall see. My life has been incredibly crazy. Ian's life has been crazy. Monica's life has been kind of crazy. So it's been a work in progress, but that's kind of the goal. We have audio versions as well on YouTube and on Spotify and every other version that you can think of, because Joshua here has been doing that for us, and it's amazing. So yeah, we're always looking for readers and listeners, always looking for writers. If you know anybody who wants to write, give them our URL, give them our web address, logosophiamag.com. Come check us out.
Yep. So that's Sarah's info. Remember, everybody, be your family's bard. Do not turn to the right or to the left, and God will be with you wherever you go. Let's join once again into the fray here on Poets at War.
God of song, said the warrior bard, though all the world betray thee, one sword at least thy right shall guard, one faithful harp shall praise thee.